This is Newsroom on SABC News. Hello and welcome from all of us here in Johannesburg in South Africa. I'm Eben Jansen. The show is broadcast live every weekday morning between 9 and 10 a.m. Highlights are then repeated at 2 o'clock in the afternoon with a complete rebroadcast at 5 a.m. the following morning. We also stream live on YouTube between 9 and 10 a.m. every day, so you can watch us there live, or you can watch the entire show all day on our YouTube channel. Today, Oscar Pistorius continues on the stand for a second day at the Notrth Gauteng High Court. Shrien Dewani is expected to arrive at Cape Town International shortly, with a strong media contingent awaiting him there. And the IEC says its members will be barred from striking during the elections. We'll talk to them a little bit later in the show. But first, let's take a look at the news headlines. Oscar Pistorius will resume his testimony in the Notrth Gauteng High Court in Pretoria today. He's expected to go into detail about the night that he shot dead his girlfriend Reva Steenkamp. Yesterday, Pistorius began his testimony with an emotional apology to Steenkamp's family and friends. He also told the court that he's been on a cocktail of antidepressants and sleeping tablets since the incident. Honeymoon murder accused Shrien Dewani will arrive in South Africa shortly and make his first court appearance at the Western Cape High Court at 11:30. He left London last night on a flight to Cape Town to stand trial for the murder of his wife, Annie, in 2010. Dewani lost a 3-year legal battle against extradition on the grounds that he has mental health problems. 2 police officers and several protesters have been injured in clashes between police and hundreds of residents of Boitumelong outside Bloemhof in the northwest. Police were pelted with stones after residents torched the houses of councillors and the mayor of the Lekotimani municipality. More than 90 suspects were arrested. His voice cracking with emotion, Oscar Pistorius took to the stand in his own defense yesterday, saying the Valentine's Day shooting of his girlfriend last year had left him sleepless, terrified and plagued by nightmares. On trial for murder, he also apologized to the mother of his model girlfriend, Reva Steenkamp, saying he fired 4 times through a toilet door at his luxury Pretoria home with the belief he was defending her from an intruder. Oscar Pistorius will resume his testimony in the Notrth Gauteng High Court shortly in Pretoria. The court adjourned early as the Paralympian became tired and emotional yesterday. Now, for more on the matter, we have Griselda Lewis, as always, outside the Notrth Gauteng High Court. Good morning, Griselda.
Very good morning to you, Eben.
Yesterday, we had lots of tears and religious undertones and apologies and so forth. Will Oscar today come out and finally give his version of what happened on that fateful night?
Well, it certainly seems so, but Oscar Pistorius has just walked inside the doors here at the Notrth Gauteng High Court, where we're expecting him today to give a great detail about what happened on that Valentine's Day morning. Oscar Pistorius will have to give his version, but we're not expecting anything different to the affidavit that he gave, where he says he shot and killed Reva Steenkamp thinking that she was an intruder in his home. We're expecting him to have a very difficult day again today, as you alluded to the fact that yesterday he was very emotional inside the courtroom. This morning when he walked inside these doors here behind me, he seemed very firm, but I guess it remains to be seen how Oscar Pistorius will react again once he gives details of or his version of what happened on that Valentine's Day. We're not expecting anything light coming as well from the state prosecutor, Shrien Dewani. We saw a lot of his tactics yesterday where it really came to light. We got to see how Shrien Dewani does go about cross-examining some of the witnesses. So we'll have to see if Oscar Pistorius will be able to withstand the pressure when Shrien Dewani does tear into his testimony. There are many questions that Oscar Pistorius needs to answer. Critically, some of them under cross-examination. Most certainly, he will be asked why he did not look next to himself when he heard the sounds coming from the bathroom, why he fired behind that bathroom door, not knowing who was behind there. We know during the state's case, some of the witnesses did testify to Oscar Pistorius knowing when and when not to use or to discharge a firearm. So many of the questions that Oscar Pistorius over the next few days will need to answer inside this court to keep himself out of jail.
Emotionally looks in quite a fragile state at the moment. How do you read him at the moment, and do you think he'll be able to stand up to what will be rigorous cross-examination in the days to come?
Well, he certainly does look very fragile. When Oscar Pistorius, every time he walks inside this courtroom, he almost has a very stern face and seems like he's able to take on the world. Somebody who we've seen over the years most certainly stand up and compete amongst the best in the world to really put South Africa on the map. But it really does become difficult once he sits in that gallery and listens to testimony after testimony from state witnesses that we've seen before the state wrapped up its case, and also now as we see him on the stand at the moment. Let me just turn around. I understand that there might be some family members who are coming through here to the courtroom as well, relating to the Oscar Pistorius trial. There's Oscar Pistorius' family there, his uncle Arnold, as well as his aunt walking inside the courtroom at the moment. But we're really, it remains to be seen how Oscar Pistorius will handle Shrien. He's been described by many as a bulldog during cross-examination. We got a taste of that yesterday, and certainly we're not expecting Shrien to handle Oscar Pistorius with kid gloves during cross-examination.
Yeah, I'm sure everybody wants to see how he stands up under that kind of pressure. I wanted to ask you about the reaction to yesterday's, for lack of a better word, performance on the stand.
Well, I think it was very strategic on his part, or rather for the defense as well, for Oscar Pistorius to issue an apology to the Steenkamp family. This is the first that we've heard from Oscar Pistorius. This is the first time he's spoken about how he feels following that shooting on Valentine's Day. We saw Oscar Pistorius already, before the case had started, we saw Oscar Pistorius already break down in anticipation, knowing, of course, that after the defense pathologist, Jan Boertha, had given his testimony, then he would need to go and defend himself in that court. The same it was yesterday as well. Oscar Pistorius really breaking down and basically unable to speak as he was apologizing to the Steenkamp family. But very ironic was the expression on Reva Steenkamp's mother, June. She was very stone-faced, Eben, I must say. She had absolutely no emotion as Oscar Pistorius was apologizing to the family. We continued to monitor her expressions during the course of the day, and absolutely emotionless. She didn't seem like she wanted to talk about at all whether she believed that Oscar Pistorius was indeed sorry for what he did. So really, the talk outside the court at the moment is that the defense is really trying to portray Oscar Pistorius as someone who's truly sorry for what he did. Also, we saw a lot of what Oscar Pistorius gave was a difficult life that he's had since a child. He was bullied at school. He's different in that his disability put him at great advantage, and he defied the odds. We also saw issues relating to his love for dogs also coming to the fore. And how Oscar Pistorius says he has helped people when they have come into contact with violent crime. So this is really in contrast as well to when we saw state witnesses paint Oscar Pistorius as someone who was trigger happy and had violent outbursts. Oscar Pistorius yesterday saying that he's a good man and that he's really done some good, despite the state witnesses are giving a totally different picture.
Yeah. He will have to do a lot of good on the stand today to convince not only Shrien, but the judge and I think an entire country and the planet. Griselda Lewis, as always, thank you very much. That's Griselda Lewis giving us another update outside the Notrth Gauteng High Court. Of course, just to recap, Oscar Pistorius will resume his testimony in the Notrth Gauteng High Court in Pretoria today. Yesterday, he apologized to the family of Reva Steenkamp and told the court that he would never handle a firearm again. Court adjourned early as the Paralympian became tired and emotional.
Thank you, my lady. I call Mr. Pistorius.
It's the biggest fight of the Blade Runner's life, called to testify in his own defense.
My name is Oscar Leonard Cole Pistorius.
It wasn't long, though, before he broke down.
I'd like to apologise and say that there's not a moment, and there hasn't been a moment since this tragedy happened, that I haven't thought about your family. I wake up every morning, you're the first people I think of, the first people I pray for.
And revealed how the events of that Valentine's morning were still haunting him.
I'm scared to sleep. When I wake up and I can smell blood, and I wake up to being terrified.
And then the court heard of his tough upbringing, a divorce, and losing his pillar of strength, his mother, at the age of 15.
The one day they phoned us and they said we must rush to Johannesburg, and I think we were there for about 10 minutes before she passed.
And then his fear of crime came under the spotlight.
When I grew up, we were exposed to crime, with house break-ins, with family members being assaulted and hijacked.
SABC News, Pretoria.
Now, British murder accused Shrien Dewani will appear briefly in the Western Cape High Court this morning. Dewani will be taken straight to court from Cape Town International Airport. He's accused of planning the murder of his wife, Annie, in 2010. The Justice Department confirmed that Dewani is accompanied by a doctor and a nurse on the plane from London. Judge President John Tlhophe will preside over the matter. No cameras will be allowed inside the court. SABC reporter Notrth Gauteng has been at Cape Town International Airport since quite early this morning and joins us now to give us an update from there. Good morning, Notrth. Can you hear me?
A very good morning to Eben.
Just set the scene for us there. We're hearing that its plane is due any minute. Just set the scene. What's been happening there since this morning, and what's the expectation?
Well, Eben, we arrived here at about 6 o'clock this morning, and when we arrived here, already there was a small media contingent, although it was just the locals that we know, but there were already people here at the international arrivals waiting for that plane to arrive. Now, I must say, Eben, that there's been a lot of confusion amongst the journalists whether this is where Shrien Dewani will actually land this morning. There have been talks about the fact that he might actually be using his private jet. So now everybody's confused, and when we arrived here this morning, the notice board actually said a plane from London, a BA flight from London, was expected to arrive at 9:56 this morning. That's 4 minutes to 10 this morning. That notice board has just changed now to 9:36. So we're not really sure when exactly, but we're still watching. We haven't seen anything. We haven't seen the police actually saying where we can go, where we can't go, but we are still waiting very patiently, Eben.
Well, the Notrth, he did a very good job at dodging the public and media when he left last night, so I'm sure it'll be tough to catch up with him, as it were. Just tell us about the procedure once he lands and how things will proceed from there this morning.
Well, earlier on we spoke to Mthunzi Maga, who is from the Department of Justice, and what he said was that as soon as Shrien Dewani touches down here in South Africa, he will be moved to the Western Cape High Court, where he will appear for the first time since the death of Annie Dewani in November 2010. So from here to the Western Cape High Court, and then he'll move to the Falkenberg Psychiatric Hospital, where he will be assessed for a period of about a month whether he is indeed fit to stand trial or not. Now, this is a case that has been marred by a lot of delays. We're not sure whether this examination on his mental state could actually be another delay or not, but he has a period of about a month to be assessed there in the Falkenberg Psychiatric Hospital. Eben.
Just quickly, we've got a lot of viewers joining us from elsewhere on the continent who haven't really been following this case. Can you just give us a quick recap as to how things have gone for the last couple of years, and really what happened?
Well, Eben, you'll remember that the Dewanis were here in South Africa for their honeymoon in November 2010. They were allegedly then hijacked and then kidnapped. Annie Dewani's body was then found in an abandoned car in Khayelitsha with a gun wound to her neck. Now, there have been 3 people that have been that are already serving lengthy sentences, namely Zola Tongo, Mziwamadoda Kwabe, and Xolile Mngeni. Now, Xolile Mngeni was the last guy to go down, because you'll remember that Zola Tongo and Mziwamadoda Kwabe actually turned state witness, and they actually said, in fact, that one person that was the mastermind behind the entire murder of Annie Dewani was, in fact, her husband, Shrien Dewani. And that's why we saw the government trying very hard to extradite Shrien Dewani to come back to South Africa to stand a trial. So that is where we are at this point. So those 3, Mziwamadoda Kwabe, Zola Tongo, and Xolile Mngeni, are already serving very lengthy sentences. And today, for the first time, Shrien Dewani will appear in front of the Western Cape High Court. Eben.
And just finally tell us, it's a high-profile trial. I'm sure there's lots of media interest, etc. Does this sketch the picture? How many people are there, and what are the expectations of the media there?
Well, Eben, like I said, we arrived here at about 6 o'clock this morning, and already there was a small media contingent, although most of them were local. What we're suspecting is going to happen is that newsrooms are actually going to split their teams, because, like I said, Shrien Dewani is expected to touch down in South Africa at about 10 o'clock. He'll then move to the Western Cape High Court. So obviously you want teams at every point. So there's not a lot of people here at the Cape Town International Airport. We're suspecting that is what newsrooms have done. But there was a media briefing yesterday, and we saw a lot of international media there. I mean, just the media alone filled up a courtroom. So we are expecting a lot of international media and a lot of public interest in this case, Eben.
Notrth, thank you very much for keeping us up to date as to what is happening. Of course, Shrien Dewani is expected to arrive at Cape Town International Airport shortly. I don't think people are quite 100% as to where he will be arriving, but we'll keep you on top of that story as it develops throughout the day. That was Notrth Gauteng giving us a little heads up as to the expectation and what's happening at the airport right now. But let's have a look at what you are thinking and talking about on social media. Kiabetswe says, 2 capital cities, 2 murder trials. Oscar and Dewani, 2 devastated families. Stop gender-based violence. Harry Todd says, just wondering, did they book Shrien a one-way ticket or a return ticket? Harry, he's got a private jet. You don't need a ticket for those. Sinner van Rensburg says, Dewani's probably thinking why he can't be on flight MH370 and all. And we have a picture of the media this morning. That's from our radio colleague, Sisanda Nkwala, media at the Cape Town International Airport ahead of the arrival, she says. And, of course, she's also got a picture up there of the arrivals board. And she says Dewani is expected to arrive shortly. Simon Orgel, justice for Reva, justice for Annie. Simon Orgel put up 2 pictures of the 2 beautiful ladies who are also the victims in this case. Well, let's now have a quick look at what's happening on Facebook and what you can get on our page. As you can see there, we keep you up to date on the latest on both Oscar Pistorius and the Shrien Dewani cases, articles, photos, and the Twitter handles to follow throughout the day if you want to, keep up to the second reporting. Then, yesterday, leaders from around the world remembered the Rwanda genocide that happened 20 years ago. Newsroom today also takes the time to remember 20 years ago, after really the darkest period in the history of our continent. In a clip posted by the Desmond Tutu Peace Foundation on YouTube, Archbishop Desmond Tutu discusses the manner in which a person can find forgiveness even for acts as horrible as genocide and torture.
Genocide and torture forgivable?
As a Christian, you have to say, are there things that are unforgivable? I'm afraid we follow a Lord and Master who, at the point when they are crucifying him in the most painful way, can say, pray for their forgiveness. And we follow the one who says, forgive one another as God in Christ forgives.
SABC, sharing 20 years of inspiration.
The DA is using 10,000 rand for poop scoops. A disgrace!
They found that Cape Town is the best run metro in the whole of the country.
What steps will you take to protect communities from the kind of police brutality?
When I am the mayor, I won't take the £1 million salary.
You guys all look the same. None of you should be trusted.
Catch the election debates on SAFM, SABC News Channel and SABC One, Sundays at 6 p.m.
Why watch the news on SABC? We bring you news in your own language. News that affect you. Sports. We have
Catherine Drew, SABC News at the High Court in London.
Shervin Bryce-Pease, SABC News.
Sarah Kimani, SABC News, Nairobi.
We touch and change people's lives. SABC News, Africa's news leader.
Jessica the hippo was found after she was washed down the river shortly after birth. Today, she is a large hippo and still returns for feeding and human interaction.
She also loves body exfoliating. Yes, she has a mask as well.
Jessica is the world's most famous hippo, and perhaps she's the only one who has forgotten how aggressive she's supposed to be.
That's Kaleidoscope, Sundays 5:30 p.m. on SABC News.
Welcome back. Pistorius' legal team called pathologist Jan Botha to the stand as his defence began yesterday. The time Reeves 10 come last 8 before a death, the location of the bullet holes in the door and the location of her injuries all came into focus. Defence advocate Barry Roo told the court he planned to call between 14 and 17 witnesses to testify on areas such as ballistics, pathology, disability and vulnerability. We are joined in Cape Town by renowned forensic science expert, Dr. David Klatzoff. Good morning, Doctor. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Eben, and good morning to your listeners.
I wanted to ask you, Doctor, what did you make of yesterday's court proceedings?
Well, it was very interesting. And, of course, watching Gerrie Nel cross-examine is a new experience for everybody. Up until now, he's been leading evidence. But yesterday, he got to cross-examine Jan Botha, and the style of cross-examination was masterful. He's a very good cross-examiner, and he certainly was able to show with unflinching skill the holes in Jan Botha's testimony.
And do you expect a severe grilling for Oscar Pistorius? He looks a little bit mentally fragile at the moment, but you expect Gerrie Nel to go down that same route? He's renowned as a bulldog, they say.
Yes, now I've got no doubt. He's a subtle cross-examiner, and his cross-examination is largely low-key. He was not overly histrionic yesterday, but his cross-examination is rapier-like and to the point. And I've got no doubt that there are many questions that Oscar is going to have to answer tomorrow, or whenever he gets under cross-examination, which are not going to be easy to answer. So I wait with some anticipation to see what his answers to some very important questions are going to be, because, of course, it all turns around what went through his mind at that time. And if Gerrie is able to show that his version in any way is improbable and that there is some doubt cast on the veracity of the version he's already given the court, then he's going to be in for an exceptionally rough time.
I wanted to just backtrack at the start yesterday. The weight that the first bits of testimony would carry from someone like Jan Botha, his experience in gastric emptying should be viewed with caution, he said. Is this true, and why? And in your experience, how do you see that?
Well, I was rather astounded to see Botha depart from his areas of expertise. I would guess it must be many, many, many years since he has examined a live patient. And the area of gastric emptying would be better left to a forensic person who is skilled in gastroenterology. And there are people around who are skilled in gastroenterology in the rate at which stomach emptying takes place. And for him to get involved with that was a little unwise, I think. Equally well, for Botha to get involved in the ballistics, I think, was exceptionally unwise from the point of view that you cannot examine the bullet wounds in Riva without a corresponding intimate knowledge of the holes in the door. They go together literally like a horse and carriage, and you simply can't do the one without the other.
No.
And for Botha to rely on photographs which let him down, I think shows a degree of inexperience, which again surprised me. But he missed those vital issues on the door. He missed the vital issue about the blood splatter behind the toilet. And I think that his version of the sequence of shots largely, eventually, under cross-examination, corresponded exactly with what the state have been saying. So I'm not quite sure whether he did the defense much good yesterday.
Be interesting to see how this develops. But there's also a high-profile case in your city happening right now, the arrival of Shrien Dewani. I wanted to know if I could ask you, what are your thoughts on this case and the extradition that's now seemed to have come to fruition?
Yes, well, we need to go back 3 years and say that had the police at the time done an adequate investigation into this rather improbable story, which may of course be true, but had they done the investigation into it at the time, I think we might have been spared a significant amount of expenditure of taxpayers' money and a significant amount of wasted time and effort to get him back. There was more than enough evidence at the time to delay his departure until the police had conducted and completed their investigations. And again, it's a sad indictment that our level of crime scene investigation, our level of detective skill leaves a lot to be desired. And it is an area in the police force and the forensics that really needs to be worked on and beefed up because it has let us down significantly in this. He should never have been allowed to leave.
Well, Dr. Klasser, thank you for joining us today and giving us your views on these two very important cases in South Africa. Thank you once again for joining us. That's forensic science expert Dr. David Klatshoff joining us from the mother city in Cape Town, where, well, we've just got reports coming in now that Shrien Dewani has landed. That's coming in from some of our reporters on Twitter. They're saying to us that Shrien Dewani is in Cape Town and matters will proceed where he'll appear in the Western Cape High Court at 11:30 this morning. Now, election fever is in the air with campaigns, posters and events all around us. However, according to reports, a potential strike by employees of the Independent Electoral Commission of South Africa could disrupt these election processes. The IEC announced yesterday that its members will be barred from striking as they deliver essential services as laid out by Parliament. Employees have threatened to strike unless Chairperson Panjit Lakula is removed before the election on the 7th of May. That's next month. Lakula has been implicated in a PwC forensic audit as well as Public Protector Thuli Madonsela's report into the lease of the IEC's 320 million rand head office in Centurion. Now, today, we are joined by Commissioner Terry Tselani, who's the Deputy Chairperson of the IEC, to set the record straight, really. Good morning, sir, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me here.
I said a mouthful there. I said a lot there. I wanted to ask you, let's start with the strike. It must be quite a difficult one. What's your position regarding the threat of strike by some of the IEC employees?
Well, we had a conversation with employees through their representatives on Friday last week, And they did raise some of the issues that you have mentioned. And we have agreed also to continue with our discussion today. But one important factor, and it gives me confidence to believe that we will not have any industrial action. It's because we are having conversation with very responsible leaders, and they understand the law very well. They understand the environment within which we are operating as the Electoral Commission. So I don't think that they would actually take any action that would actually jeopardize the integrity and credibility of the elections. But it does not mean that some of the issues that they've raised are not legitimate. Yeah. They are legitimate, and then we will address them in our conversation today. But the matter related to our chairperson, we have indicated to them, and they understand this very well. It is a matter that really falls outside the ambit of the Commission. So we are not empowered in law to deal with that issue, and therefore there is an understanding that we are not expected as the Commission to deal with that matter.
There seems to be fallout from that matter. How do you deal with that fallout from members? And then also, will it affect preparations as you go into the final crucial bit heading into the election?
The technical details of the preparations for the elections are in place. We have certified the voters' roll. It's a very credible voters' roll. We have already recruited 218,000 workers who are going to be working on the day of the elections. We've been busy with their training. We are satisfied at that level. The issue of the logistics is in place. We are now busy with the printing of the ballot papers. We have already made arrangements in terms of the results. In fact, we are already now preparing for the announcement of the results of the elections. So that's how far we have gone. We are confident that all the steps that we have taken will not be disrupted in any way.
Now, this thing is also not going to go away, the issue around the report from the public protector and so forth. And I'm sure you're going to get this almost in every interview that you will face right up until election day. How are you, as the IEC, going to manage this?
Look, there are matters, quite a number of matters that are arising from both the public protector's report as well as the forensic audit. And in those things that are within the realm of the Commission, we are busy attending to them. So we will indicate, we'll be as transparent as possible and indicate the kind of steps that we are taking in relation to some of those issues. But an issue that is outside our mandate and our capacity is the issue related to our chairperson. And I will continue to tell whoever is asking us questions about it that unfortunately it's an issue over which we've got no capacity and it's got to be dealt with elsewhere.
And today, you will find alignment with your employees and hopefully be able to iron out the differences and be able to move forward to the election.
I am very, very convinced that we will be able to find each other. There is an understanding that some of the issues that the employees are raising can be attended to. But even if we do not necessarily deal with all those issues today and address all of them today, as long as we are able to develop a program of action that illustrates clearly how we're going to be dealing with those issues, I'm sure the union representative will be satisfied with that kind of approach.
Well, we wish you all the best. It's a very delicate time for you over the next couple of weeks as you prepare for the election. But thank you for joining us, Commissioner. The court is in session, it seems, and we have to move on to the news and the expectation of everyone today, which, of course, is Oscar Pistorius taking to the stand for a second day today. He's expected to come out and tell the world what happened on the night that he shot Reeva Steenkamp 4 times through a toilet door in the home that they were in outside of Pretoria. Let's go straight inside the Notrth Gauteng High Court.
And when I got to his house, I told him that he asked me how the evening had gone, and I said to him that I had the most amazing time and that it was a lot of fun. It was Reeva was a fantastic date, and I asked her, and we spoke later about her. And she then went overseas to shoot a TV program. When she came back, we saw each other less frequently. I think things had happened quite quickly. And then we took November and December getting to know each other. In December, I went down to Cape Town with some friends during my break, and I asked her if she wanted to come with me. She said that she needed some time alone, so she stayed. She said she was going to stay up in Johannesburg. She wanted to spend Christmas with some friends of hers, and then the friends of hers cancelled their plans and went away without her, so I stayed until Christmas, and I shared Christmas with her and Mr. Fresco and Mr. Fresco's girlfriend at the time. And then the next day I flew down to Cape Town, and I was scheduled to come back on the 2nd of January, and on, I think it was the 1st of January of 2013, Riva phoned me and asked me if she could come down. Instead of me coming up, could she come down? During the time that I was in Cape Town, she wanted to get away a bit, and she asked if she could stay at my house in Pretoria, so she stayed at my home in Pretoria whilst I was in Cape Town, and we were still getting kind of to know each other and comfortable with each other. And then in mid-January, everything started to pick up, and we really, I'd say that's really when our relationship really got going.